The unexpected engineer, the mining station's alarm system, had been screaming for 6 hours straight, but Maya-chan barely noticed anymore. She was 3 levels deep in the engine compartment, her coveralls soaked with coolant and her hair tied. Back with electrical tape. The Corvani-built fusion reactor was having another one of its episodes, and like always, the automated repair systems were useless. Stupid alien tech, Maya muttered, pulling herself deeper into the access tunnel. The Corvani built everything to last 1,000 years, but they never planned for anyone actually fixing it when things went wrong. Their solution to everything was to replace the entire system. Maya's solution was to get her hands dirty and make it work. The mining station floated in the outer reaches of Corvani space, harvesting rare metals from dead asteroids. Maya had been working here for 2 years, ever since the Terran Mining Consortium had signed their contract with the Corvani Empire. It was supposed to be easy money. The aliens provided the technology, humans provided the labor, everyone went. Home happy dot, except the technology kept breaking down in ways the Corvani had never seen before. That's where Maya came in. While other engineers waited for replacement parts that took months to arrive, Maya figured out how to make things work with whatever was lying around. She'd fixed the life support system with parts from a broken coffee machine. She'd rerouted the navigation computer through her personal tablet. She'd even built a backup power system using hand tools and sheer stubbornness. The Corvani station supervisor, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Vex Moore, found her solutions primitive and inefficient. Maya didn't care. Her solutions worked, and that was all that mattered. She finally reached the reactor core, a beautiful crystalline structure that hummed with contained energy. The problem was obvious to anyone who actually looked at it. 3 of the focusing crystals had shifted out of alignment, probably from the station's rotation. The automated systems kept trying to compensate by increasing power, which only made things worse. Maya pulled out her manual tools and got to work. No fancy scanners, no computer assistance, just her eyes and her hands. She adjusted the crystals by tiny degrees, listening to the changes in the reactor's hum. Most engineers would have needed hours of calculations and computer modeling. Maya just needed to feel how the machine wanted to work. 20 minutes later, the reactor was purring like a contented cat. The alarms finally stopped, and blessed silence filled the station. Maya wiped her hands on her coveralls and started the long crawl back to the surface. She emerged from the access tunnel to find Vex Moore waiting for her, his 4 arms crossed in disapproval. Engineer Chun, you have once again ignored proper protocols. The replacement crystals were scheduled to arrive next week, and we would have been dead by then, Maya replied, not bothering to hide her irritation. The reactor was 12 hours from cascade failure. I fixed it. Problem solved. Your methods are unpredictable. The Corvani way ensures reliability through standardization. Every component is tested. Every procedure is verified. This is how we have maintained our civilization for over 10,000 years. Maya had heard this speech before. The Corvani were proud of their perfect systems, their automated everything, their complete elimination of uncertainty. They'd built an empire that ran like clockwork, where every citizen knew their role and every machine performed its function without fail. It was also, in Maya's opinion, incredibly fragile. They'd become so dependent on their perfect systems that they'd forgotten how to adapt when things went wrong. They'd traded resilience for efficiency, and it showed. Your way works great until it doesn't, Maya said. What happens when your standardized solution can't handle an unstandardized problem? Vex Moore's skin shifted to a darker shade of blue, indicating confusion. Such problems do not exist. Our systems account for all variables. Maya was about to argue when every light on the station suddenly flickered. The background hum of machinery faltered for a moment, then resumed. But something was wrong. The lights weren't their usual steady white. They were slightly dimmer, with an odd pulsing quality. What was that? Maya asked, but Vex Moore was already at his workstation, his fingers dancing over the holographic controls. I am receiving reports from across the sector, he said, his voice tight with concern. Multiple stations are reporting power fluctuations. The orbital platforms around Corvani Prime are experiencing similar issues. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature. All at once? That's not a coincidence. Before Vex Moore could respond, the main display screen flickered to life. The image showed the edge of Corvani space, where massive ships, unlike anything Maya had ever seen, were emerging from what looked like tiers in space itself. The ships were dark, almost black, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light, rather than reflect it. Unknown vessels, Vex Moore whispered. This is impossible. Our sensor network covers all approaches to the Empire. Nothing could enter our space undetected. Maya watched as the dark ships spread out in a perfect formation, moving with purpose toward the inner worlds. As they moved, the power fluctuations grew stronger. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the station. They're not just moving, Maya realized. They're feeding. Look at the energy readings around those ships. She was right. The dark vessels were somehow draining power from everything around them. The automated defense platforms that protected the outer systems were going dark one by one, their energy absorbed by the mysterious invaders. This cannot be happening, Vex Moore said, his voice cracking. Our defenses are impenetrable. Our automated systems are perfect. They cannot fail. But they were failing. Maya watched in horror as the invasion fleet moved deeper into Corvani space, leaving a trail of darkened worlds behind them. The Empire's perfect systems were helpless against an enemy they'd never encountered before. Contact the defense fleet, Maya ordered. Tell them to use manual targeting systems, kinetic weapons, anything that doesn't rely on power grids. Vex Moore looked at her as if she'd suggested using sticks and stones. Manual systems? We have not used such primitive methods in millennia. Our computers handle all combat operations. Then your computers are about to get you all killed, Maya snapped. Those ships are draining your power. Every automated system you have is useless against them. The communication system crackled to life, and suddenly they were connected to the Imperial Command Center on Corvani Prime. The face of Emperor Zethka appeared on the screen, his usually calm demeanor replaced by obvious panic. Citizens of the Outer Rim, the Emperor said, his voice strained. Our empire faces an unprecedented threat. The beings attacking us appear to consume energy itself. Our defense grids are failing across all sectors. We are requesting assistance from anyone who might have knowledge of these creatures. Maya stared at the screen, then at Vex Moore's terrified expression. The mighty Corvani Empire, with their perfect technology and flawless systems, was helpless against an enemy that could turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. But Maya wasn't Corvani. She was human, and humans had never had perfect systems. They'd always had to make do with whatever was available, to improvise and adapt when things went wrong. They'd learned to survive not because their technology was perfect, but because they were. Vex Moore, she said quietly. Get me a direct line to the Emperor. I think I might be able to help. The alien looked at her with something approaching hope. You have knowledge of these shadow beings? No, Maya admitted. But I know how to fix things when they break. And your empire is very, very broken right now. The Mechanical Revolution Emperor Zethka's image flickered on the screen as the communication system struggled to maintain connection. Maya could see the panic in his large, dark eyes as she explained her theory about the shadow ship's energy-draining capabilities. Engineer Chun, the Emperor said, his voice carrying the weight of desperation. Our greatest scientists have analyzed these creatures for the past 6 hours. They consume electromagnetic energy, drain power cells, and render our weapons useless. If you have any insight into how we might combat them, the Empire would be eternally grateful. Maya took a deep breath. What she was about to suggest would sound insane to a species that had automated everything for thousands of years. Your Majesty, you need to stop using energy-based systems entirely. Fight them with mechanical weapons, kinetic projectiles, anything that doesn't require power to function. The Emperor's skin shifted to a pale green, indicating confusion. Mechanical systems? We have not used such primitive methods since our early industrial period. Our current military relies entirely on plasma weapons, energy shields, and automated targeting systems. Then you need to learn fast, Maya said bluntly. I can help you retrofit your defenses, but we need to work quickly. How long before the Shadow Fleet reaches your core worlds? A new voice joined the conversation. 18 hours, came the crisp reply from Admiral Kexzar, the Empire's military commander. Perhaps less if they continue to accelerate. Engineer Chun, with respect, you are suggesting we abandon 10,000 years of technological advancement to fight with ... What? Clubs and spears? Maya felt her patience slipping. I'm suggesting you use weapons that actually work against these things. Look, I don't have time to explain the finer points of military strategy to you. Do you want to save your empire or not? The Emperor held up a hand for silence. Admiral, our current methods have proven ineffective. Engineer Chun's mining station is the only facility in the Outer Rim that still has full power. Perhaps we should listen to her counsel. Maya nodded grimly. The mining station is protected because I built backup systems that don't rely on your power grid. Manual controls, mechanical systems, old-fashioned human engineering. The shadows can't drain what isn't there. For the next hour, Maya found herself in the strangest position of her life, teaching the leaders of a galactic empire how to build weapons their ancestors would have recognized. She explained the principles of kinetic energy, chemical propulsion, and mechanical targeting systems. She drew diagrams of simple projectile weapons and showed them how to convert their manufacturing facilities to produce ammunition instead of energy cells. The hardest part wasn't the technical knowledge. It was convincing the Corvani to trust in systems they considered primitive. They'd spent so long perfecting their automated processes that the idea of manual operation terrified them. But what if the targeting computer fails? Asked Chief Engineer Mortek during one of their planning sessions. Then you aim with your eyes, Maya replied. Your people had to learn to shoot before they learned to program computers to shoot for them. What if the mechanical systems jam or break down? Then you fix them, with your hands, with tools. Hey. Same way I fixed your reactor. The concept was revolutionary to them. The idea that a broken system could be repaired by someone who understood how it worked, rather than replaced by someone who understood how to order a replacement, was completely foreign to their experience. But they learned. Maya found herself working with teams of Corvani engineers, teaching them to build simple projectile weapons, spring-loaded launchers, and manually operated defense systems. They studied human military history, learning about catapults and cannons, ballistas and railguns. The real breakthrough came when young engineer Paxfell, barely out of the academy, managed to convert a plasma cannon into a kinetic weapon. Instead of firing energy bolts, it now launched dense metal slugs using compressed air. The first test shot punched clean through a meter of reinforced hull plating. It works, Paxfell said, his voice filled with wonder. The primitive system actually works. It's not primitive, Maya corrected. It's reliable. There's a difference. As the Shadow Fleet drew closer to the core worlds, Maya's crash course in mechanical warfare began to pay off. The Corvani defense platforms were rapidly being converted to manual operation. Energy weapons were replaced with kinetic cannons. Automated targeting systems were supplemented with manual controls. Most importantly, the defenders were learning to think like humans, to adapt, improvise, and overcome. The final test came when the Shadow Fleet reached the outer defense perimeter of Corvani Prime. Maya watched from the command center as the dark ships encountered the converted defense platforms. The Shadow's usual tactic of energy drain failed, completely against the mechanical weapons. The massive kinetic cannons launched their projectiles at tremendous velocity, striking the Shadow ships with devastating effect. For the first time since the invasion began, the Shadows were taking damage. Their energy-absorbing hulls were useless against solid matter traveling at several kilometers per second. The dark ships, confused by weapons they couldn't drain, began to retreat. "They're falling back," Admiral Kekzar reported, his voice filled with amazement. "The mechanical weapons are working. The enemy fleet is withdrawing from the outer perimeter." But Maya wasn't satisfied with just driving them off. She'd studied the Shadow ships during the battle, and she'd noticed something important. "They're not just retreating," she said. "They're regrouping. They'll adapt to our kinetic weapons eventually. We need to finish this now." She turned to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, I need access to your orbital manufacturing facilities. All of them. And I need every available ship in your fleet, military or civilian." "What do you intend to do?" Emperor Zethka asked. Maya smiled grimly. "I'm going to give them more kinetic energy than they can handle. We're going to turn your entire orbital infrastructure into the biggest shotgun in the galaxy." The plan was audacious even by human standards. Maya proposed using the Empire's orbital stations as massive kinetic accelerators. By linking them together with cables and using their rotation to build up momentum, they could launch projectiles at incredible velocities. The Shadow ships might be able to adapt to conventional weapons, but they couldn't adapt to a planet-sized slingshot. The next few hours were a frenzy of activity. Corvani engineers worked alongside human advisors to convert their orbital facilities into components of Maya's massive weapon system. Mining stations became ammunition factories. Transport. Ships were stripped down to carry cargo pods filled with dense metal slugs. Even luxury passenger liners were pressed into service as mobile launch platforms. When the Shadow Fleet returned for their final assault, they found the Corvani system completely transformed. The elegant orbital platforms had been replaced by a crude but effective network of mechanical weapons. As the dark ships approached, Maya gave the command to fire. The effect was spectacular. Hundreds of kinetic projectiles launched simultaneously from dozens of platforms, creating a dense cloud of high-velocity metal that no amount of energy absorption could stop. The Shadow ships, built to drain power from advanced civilizations, were completely unprepared for an attack that relied on nothing more sophisticated than momentum and mass. The battle was over in minutes. The Shadow Fleet, faced with weapons they couldn't understand or counter, fled back to whatever dimension they'd come from. The tears in space sealed themselves, leaving only wreckage and the stunned silence of a civilization that had just learned to fight with its hands. In the aftermath, as the Corvani celebrated their victory, Maya found herself in the strange position of being hailed as a hero by an entire empire. Emperor Zethka offered her titles, wealth, and position. Admiral Kekzar wanted to put her in charge of military research. Every engineering academy in the empire wanted her to teach. But Maya had a different idea. "Your Majesty," she said during the formal ceremony, "I don't want to be your general or your teacher. I want to be your insurance policy." "I do not understand," the Emperor replied. "You built an empire based on perfect systems," Maya explained. "But perfection is fragile. What happens when the next threat comes along, something near perfect? Systems can't handle? You need people who know how to fix things when they break, who can adapt when adaptation is necessary. The Emperor considered this. What do you propose? Make me your Chief Innovation Officer. Give me a team of engineers who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. When your perfect systems fail, we'll be ready with imperfect solutions that actually work. And so Maya Chun, the grease-stained engineer who'd never wanted anything more than to fix broken machinery, became the guardian of an empire. She established workshops throughout Corvani, space where engineers learned to build with their hands instead of their computers. She created backup systems for critical infrastructure, redundant networks that could function even when the primary systems failed. Most importantly, she taught the Corvani that there was strength in imperfection, power in adaptability, and safety in being prepared for the unexpected. They learned to value the engineer who could fix a broken system with spare parts and ingenuity just as much as the computer that could design a perfect replacement asterisk.